Google's December 2020 core update was big, even bigger than the May 2020 update. Some of the data providers are saying we're going to be talking about Google on penalizing misinformation, and even more people are shopping online. As we know, searchers are looking for available near me. It's going up 100% versus last year. This is our digital news roundup. You're listening to News on the Edge on Edge of the Web Radio.
From the Edge of the Web studios, here's what we're looking at this week.
All right, this is Edge of the Web Radio. I'm your host, Aaron Sparks, owner of Site Strategics. Every week, we bring you amazing guests to chat about trending digital marketing topics and news. Each week, we're covering SEO and digital marketing news, separate from our weekly interview, getting more news out to you even more quickly. Be sure to check out all our recent shows over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. Welcome to the Site Strategics Digital Marketing News Desk of Edge of the Web. Joining me this week to get his take on the news of the week, and it's actually been a building plan here over recent weeks and months, is Morty Oberstein. Morty, how are you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm grand. Thank you for having me. This is an honor.
You are more than welcome, and don't make me regret it. I mean, already. You're already.
I don't like to promise things. It's not my style. You never know what will pop out of my mouth, which is the best part of me.
Exactly. See, that's why we have you on the mute button, and there's a 7-second delay. Oh, wait, we're not live, are we? So we can put anything.
Hey, you just gave me free reign.
Absolutely. So we reached out to Morty a while back and wanted to talk to him about possibly joining this ragtag band and talking about digital marketing news on a weekly basis, and basically hitting it each and every Monday, going over different articles and being able to tie in and give our listener audience a reliable news channel. Each and every Tuesday is going to be our news drop from here on out. As much as we can actually get it on the screws, we're going to be doing that. So who better would be a great screwy co-host than Morty himself? So he's
I'm flattered.
You are. You should be.
I'm flattered by that. I take that as a compliment, 100% in every way.
I'll try harder then.
Please.
You're constantly channeling some great news and interaction out there in the social channels, and we wanted to bring you around and get an assist there and be able to talk about what's happening, but also be able to connect to people online about these particular articles, because it's not just enough to talk about a particular news article that's coming out, but also really get a feel for what people feel about those articles that we're talking about. This is where you come in.
Yeah, I mean, like how I escape my family is by living on Twitter. No, but really that's the truth. Like when you see an article, a news article, and there's the content itself, but what really happens on Twitter or the other forums, that you get that sort of nuanced perspective of what SEOs actually think about it, what it actually means to them, and sort of the implications that you never would have thought of by those conversations on Twitter. Because look, in general, one of the best ways to learn about SEO or what's going on in SEO is to hang out on Twitter. It's also one great way to ruin your mind, but it's also a great way to learn SEO.
Absolutely. And there's a huge amount of contribution out there. This is now the punditry where documentation, different articles can actually be validated as well, because it's not enough just to talk about the news of the day, but if people have different opinions, that's where Twitter's going to be where it's at. So for the show, you're going to see us moving a number of efforts post-show into social media and getting some feedback. And we're also going to be tying into the hashtag SEO chat on Thursdays as well. So it's going to be a bit of a change of dynamic here, because we want to be able to connect with top SEO players, top digital players, but also kind of have an extended input to the stories that we're talking about.
Can I explain SEO chat for a quick second?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Awesome. So SEO chat, it's hashtag SEO chat, and it's SEOCHAT. It's a weekly Twitter chat that happens on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I run it with Carolyn Lydon, who is absolutely fantastic, who I believe is actually hosting this week. And basically, it's a grassroots Twitter chat, not like some of the branded Twitter chats that are out there, which are great, but it's really very much grassroots. It's only grassroots, and it's a place where you can sort of chat about whatever SEO topic is on the agenda for the week and get some really nice insights, some high-level SEOs or from SEO implementers or it really everybody from the SEO community. It's a great little way to sort of experience how people actually take the topics in SEO and how they implement them and what they actually think about them.
Yep, and it gives a great environment to be able to ask questions.
Yep.
And the SEO community has, by and large, grown to be a really great educating force as well. And we've had different stories in the past of fear of actually asking certain questions. That's not what SEO Chat's all about at all. I mean, literally, the community is great, and it's a welcoming community to be able to ask any and all questions out there, and you'll certainly have some great answers. So, Morty, I failed to introduce you to our listeners, which maybe was more of a Freudian thing than anything else. But Morty Oberstein is the liaison to the SEO community for Wix. So tell us about what's going over at Wix.
Ooh, okay. So Wix, as you know, is a site building platform. And over the past year, there's been an enormous effort to improve its SEO capabilities. And there's been a strong and steady stream of development, a ton of improvements, things that you couldn't do or misconceptions that you might have had are gone to a large extent. And my job is to sort of make the SEO community aware of that. Like, common SEO myth for Wix: you cannot edit your robots.txt file. No, you've been able to do that for over a year now. So again, like, my job is to sort of make the community more aware of what's going on at Wix and to advocate for the community to Wix. Hey, you're having a problem? Okay, great. Let me take that to the product team and see what we can do for you there.
There you go. There you go. A great input channel as well. So again, no paid sponsor here. Just want to make sure that we know who you are and what you're doing. We just wanted to get you on board. And at any point in time you want to let us know what's going on the Wix side of things, feel free. But only do it at the end of the show, okay? Jeez, okay. I mean, just
I promise.
All right.
I mean, look, I'm a marketer. I'm going to market. Like, I can't help it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything else. Let's jump into the first article over at Search Engine Land by our friend and yours, Barry Schwartz. Google's December 2020 core update was big, even bigger than the May 2020 update. Early data shows that the rollout was mostly felt after the following day, but Google has said, as they have said on a number of occasions with core updates, it can take about possibly a couple weeks to fully roll out. So December 3rd was the core update, and we're certainly seeing a high swing of volatility from all of the sensors out there. Rank Ranger's right there, as well as SEMrush and Cognitive. They all have some very high peaks when it comes down to search volatility. Basically, we're talking about they got rolled out about 1 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, December 3rd. Like all core updates, it was a global update, not specific to any region, language, or category of websites. It's a classic broad core update that Google releases every few months or so. In this case, it was the longest stretch from May since a confirmed broad core update, one that took just under 7 months as opposed to the typical 3-month timeline. All right, so there's a lot of chatter. There's a lot of contributors, some great individuals in SEO that are doing the numbers and looking at who got affected, what happened. All right, Morty, what's your first take on what you're seeing with the core updates so far?
So a couple of really interesting things that popped out to me. One is that Rank Ranger data, which privy to have worked for Rank Ranger in the past. I used to be their CMO, so I understand exactly what that data is. Yep. The retail niche, seeing a spike that high is odd for a core update. Usually you have your health and your finance just dominating the volatility market on that. So seeing that was interesting. Also, the fact that, it was really quick. That was the initial feel, right? You had Barry Schwartz going on Twitter saying, hey, Google, is this actually over? Usually it takes about 2 weeks to roll out, but I'm seeing it being really quick. I thought it was really quick. Lily Ray thought it was really quick. I think Glenn Gabe said the same thing. And then it turns out it wasn't as quick as we thought it was. There was a second wave, which is very apropos for Corona times, but there was a second wave of the update, which was interesting from what I saw. And again, this is like, my limited corner of the world. What I see was that if you lost or gained rankings, you generally, kept that loss or kept that gain through the second wave. That's not to say there weren't cases where, hey, there was a reversal for you, either negative or positive, but what I generally saw was this like weird wave of reversal. So quick up and down. So you're up one day, you're down another day, you're up again, and then you're down again. There's a song about that, isn't there? Anyway, But it was like these like weird sort of reversal, which is very typical for an unconfirmed update, which I find this, fascinatingly bizarre to a certain extent. When Google sometimes releases these unconfirmed, your typical update, you'll see a lot of sites going up and down in sort of like a test. Google's, okay, let's test this out, see how it goes. It's weird to see that on the tail end of a core update where you figure, okay, Google has something in mind specifically that they want to do, and they roll it out and they do it. It might take a little while and, to fully feel the effect of it. But these weird little reversals was, again, bizarre in the sense that that's something I typically see more for an unconfirmed update.
Jacob, if you could actually pull up the Glenn Gabe link, that Twitter link that I throw there in the production notes, have a look at this, everybody on screen. And apologies to the audio listener basis, our audio listeners. But if you have a look there, there's a huge spike. Go ahead and scroll down there. This is what we're talking about here is literally rolled out December 3rd, and then literally December 7th, and these are some of the big winners and losers that they were referring. This is an analytics report, but look at these huge waves of traffic within a day of each other, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's up, and then it's, so on the 7th, it's down, then you're up again on the 8th, and you're down again on the 9th. Mm-hmm. Again, that's a lot of what you typically see during an unconfirmed update. I haven't seen that to such an extent during a confirmed update. Not to say, by the way, that there were sites that at the tail end of this didn't gain or lose rankings. There were, but there were, as Lily Ray and I think Glenn pointed out, there was a lot of these sites that were just going back and forth, which is out of character.
Yep, absolutely. And Lily also jumped in there on Path Interactive and posted up a blog post on December 7th, going over some of the top sites that top categories that were actually affected, the winners and losers. Top winners they're looking at accounting and taxes, relocation and moving, finances, video games, groceries, nutrition, fitness. The losers, however, are arts and entertainment, which is always a volatile channel, always. Right. But natural and alternative medicines, there's your YMYL. Addictions and news and media. News and media was fluctuating around 6% visibility index, and then you have public safety and health. So you've got news, you've got public safety and health, and we're about to talk about misinformation factors that Google's been looking at. Those are two core categories that could very well be subject to a good deal of removal based on misinformation, especially coming right out of the election cycle, right?
Yeah, I know it's interesting when Lily actually goes into the specific sites that lost in those niches, right? So, and by the way, I'm not generally a big fan of top 10 winners and losers, but when you do 1,000 different sites,
right,
you can really see a trend. And one of the things that was surprising in there is that she sees the .gov sites lost, which I also, when I was digging through individual sites, I saw a lot of health sites like Healthline or WebMD outperform .gov in certain instances. And it was interesting to me because what happened was, based upon this is my speculation, my observation, so take it or leave it, because I don't think anybody owns what happened during a core update or any Google update.
Right.
Is that there are pages like Healthline that were more relevant, although slightly less authoritative than, let's say, the CDC.
Right.
So while in the past the CDC may have ranked above Healthline because, hey, they're the CDC, they're hyper authoritative, not to discount Healthline, Google bumped up relevancy. So the Healthline page was slightly more relevant. Google didn't care as much that the CDC is, perhaps more authoritative than Healthline. So that's why I think you saw that little downgrade in the .govs.
No, and I think to double down on what you're saying there is that the March into the May, March was there was a medical fluctuation there, but the May algorithm, it certainly did reflect some higher rankings for the CDC and health oriented sites, and that's all the content that Google knew how to actually put in front of the public. But now, over the course of 7 months, there's been a lot of content, a lot of very strong domains that are not CDC that have been putting out some good information with regularity, and that's kind of what you're seeing here, right?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I think Lily points out also that you have that bump in the .govs or the .edus, Harvard Health, those kind of sites. So while there was this major bump up, and there's a little bit of it coming back down now, but the major bump is still outweighs the coming down of the .govs that you see now. So overall, they're still way up compared to the other sites.
Sure.
But it's interesting to see that they're coming back down a little bit.
So we're certainly going to be paying attention to this, and the jury's not out at all. I mean, we're only a couple weeks out from this core update, and the last time back in May, I mean, we were talking about that for months, and every core update has that level of chatter. So we're going to be looking at this and getting some input from social and bringing that back around to our news as we talk about this. So we may actually have a little bit of a campfire talking about, okay, who's talking about this in the future shows as well. So we're not going to just do one particular insight and move away from it. We're going to funnel some of the social chatter that's happening on a regular basis and bring that back around to us. So that said, it was a really good article over at Search Engine Land. Thank you, Barry, for constantly being a consummate communicator about these core updates. And on top of that, Google's very transparent right now when they're rolling out these core updates. Not every update, but at least for right now. Right.
So now you're getting into the controversy. Right? Are they being transparent?
Well, let's talk about this.
Aaron says yes. Joe Hall
says no. All right. So our next article, good segue there from Roger Monti on Search Engine Land. Google on penalizing misinformation. Should Google penalize misinformation the same way it punishes spam? Google's Danny Sullivan responds, and we certainly do want to give the screen a little bit of a break there. But I do want to keep on scrolling through because this thread was a pretty intense thread there. I do want to have our video viewers watch this as well. So the fact of the matter is that was a sizable article that Roger put forth, and it was really kind of a play-by-play on Joe Hall, a SEO practitioner, really kind of calling Google to the mat a bit and talking to Danny Sullivan about handling misinformation and misleading information in combination with what penalties happen when domains actually buy links in comparison. So, I mean, Google certainly does de-index and penalize sites that are purchasing links and purchasing authority, right? And Joe is actually trying to call out the same level of equivalency. Shouldn't sites that actually are sending traffic or linking to traffic that are misleading or misinformation, shouldn't they not also be subject to the same level of penalization? That was the argument there. And boy, what a red meat type of argument there was, because there's plenty of takes on what Google's role is, and on top of that, what they do from an algorithm adjustment, as well as a number of different adjustments that they do from manual penalty and automatic adjustments of authoritative websites. So the first take on this, I'm going to give it to Morty here. What did you see?
This is interesting, right? Like, first off, this is Joel's second, crack at Google in a couple of days. He took a crack at them over their transparency over the core update.
Right.
This is not a new issue. I mean, look, a couple of months ago, I don't know if everybody remembers this, but there was a whole issue about some anti-Semitic results showing up on the image SERP.
Yep.
And myself, Nava Hopkins, Alan Bleiweiss were very much on Danny Sullivan. Hey, like, this is not kosher.
Pun intended. Oh, that's beautiful.
That was terrible. I'm sorry. This is not good. Right. Bubby doesn't like this. Anyway, so, Danny came back and said, I hear what you're saying, but, we're not in the business of determining truth. Mm-hmm. And like, it's a hard, because I was personally pissed off, right? Like, that was not fun for me to see.
Right, exactly.
Because, I am Jewish, in case you didn't know. But I kind of understand where Google's coming from, as much as I'm upset about it. Like, what are they supposed to do? Be the judge, jury, and executioner about what is true, what's not true? Mm-hmm. Do you really want Google doing that necessarily?
Nope.
Like, the same Google that you think is evil and dominating the SERP and taking over all your traffic, and you want them to have total control over what content is out there, to me seems a little bit of a contradiction. Not to say I don't understand where Joe is coming from. Like, I very much do. When I saw that anti-Semitic content, I was not being rational about it. I was saying, hey, take this down. I don't really care what you have to say. Take it down now.
Right.
But it's complicated. It really is complicated.
It's complicated because we are trying to decide whether or not we empower these vehicles of information. Okay. And they are vehicles. They're not publishers per se, although there's a huge argument about that right now. They're conduits of information. Do they have the role of actually removing content, right?
Yep.
according, I mean, they certainly have their policies. They certainly have their best practices. Should they be tagging content as opposed to removing content? And what does misinformation really mean? Right. I mean, that's the key factor here. If it's completely false, then we're dealing with what does truth mean. And if you're in that space and you start taking those subjective perspectives, right?
Right.
You're in
slippery slope.
You're in an incredibly slippery slope, and we, like I said, just got out of an election, and it has big tech written all over it. There's such a clamor of just political polarity that's happening right there. And you had Facebook, you had Twitter, you had Google right in the mix, and everybody's making their own accusations on how everything was handled. In the midst of this, shouldn't we have a little bit more care of removing content as opposed to, if it's coming through that particular channel, shouldn't we tag it, or shouldn't that channel tag it in one way, shape, or form, but still allow it to exist? That's my
right.
big.
Well, Twitter does that, right? Like, certain politicians that I shall not name, when they put things out that seem, perhaps not exactly the truth, so Twitter tags that.
Right.
But the tag itself is questionable, right? So if you're on the other side of that equation, you're all upset. Well, why is that tag there? And that shouldn't be there. So again, the tag itself doesn't. I don't think necessarily solves the problem, because the tag itself is that search engine or that media putting their thumb on the platform,
Right.
On the issue. Not that I think that's necessarily bad on social media. Right, because social media is different than search.
You better believe it.
Search is all about finding information, right? So there's also an ethic of letting people find the maximum amount of information that's out there. There's a different ethic on the other side of it that I don't think Joe necessarily appreciated in that particular moment. Again, not that I blame him, because I would have been angry too. There's an ethic of, okay, we have to give the information and put it out there. And at the end of the day, how much, and there's another question, how much is on the user not being an idiot? Like you can't stop people from being morons, and that no matter what you're going to do, by the way, like you can label it, remove it, or whatever. If you're going to be an idiot, you're going to be an idiot. You're going to find it somewhere. Exactly.
You're going to find it, and at some point in time, the onus has to be on the user that they have to have a level of credence to themselves to be able to dismiss something. Right then and there, they have. I mean, they have to. But you can't put bumpers on the entire
side. You have to be like somewhat intelligent, right?
Yeah. Gosh,
I would think so.
I really don't want to weigh into what particular factor of the populace art, but it does get back to buyer beware.
Looking good.
It's not. No, it's not. It's not. But buyer beware. Right, you have to have that level of ownership of that. You can't expect the platforms to police content, and you can't expect them to jump into the truth sayers and christen what's truth and what's not, because that's not. Nobody's going to be treated fairly in this space for long.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little bit of a rant there, guys. But I mean,
this kind of content deserves rant. This
it
is
really does.
Rant-worthy content.
But here's the deal: is just, I mean, a tip of the hat to Joe and a tip of the hat to Google, because these conversations never took place 10 years ago. There was not this clamoring, and in all due respect, Danny Sullivan was very respectful. He was actually pointing at a number of different factors, and Joe was very respectful as well.
Yeah, Joe, 100%. No, I think Joe did a great job with this, and with the previous one he had with about the nature of the core updates and the transparency that Google offers. Again, people should go back and look at how Joe handled that, because he handled that perfectly. Yep. You can have your piece. You can also be a human being at the same time.
Absolutely.
Joe was a human being.
Absolutely. So, I mean, in that particular perspective, that's the kind of conversations that SEOs and search engines should be having. And it's great to be able to have this, to witness that kind of conversation, right? It's just when you get into it, there still has to be some monicum of fairness across all information, and the purveyors of this information need to take that very, very, very seriously, and they are.
Yep. And by the way, speaking of like liaisons, right? So now that I sit in the shoes of one, look, you might be upset at Danny, but it might be something that Danny agrees with you, right? It could be something that Danny has absolutely no control over.
Right.
Google's a monstrous company. He might even know who the person is who handles this. I don't know.
Exactly. You can't have him answer everything, right?
Like you gotta come some slack a little bit sometimes.
All right. Morty said it. I didn't.
I know, but now SEO Twitter's going to come all over me.
All right. Want to make sure we give a shout out to our continued sponsor of Edge of the Web. That is Ahrefs. Ahrefs does some great competitive analysis. It's a fantastic tool to show you how your competitors are ranking and why. You can see the pages, the content that send them the most search traffic, and find out the exact keywords that your competitors are ranking for, and the backlinks that are helping them rank is there. So from there, you can actually replicate and improve their strategies. Fantastic tool. We're very proud to have them on board. They've been a long-standing sponsor for Edge. If you're interested in what they can do for you, just sign up. You can, I think you can get 7 days for $7 over at Ahrefs. Ahrefs.com. You can check out their Webmasters tool completely free of charge. It's a fantastic tool set to be able to get an analysis of your web content, your audit, as well as the search value that your domain has. So Ahrefs.com, swim in some great data just like we do here over at the shop. All right. Third and final article here, I want to swing over to Greg Sterling. And evidently, if I'm not mistaken, he actually has announced that he was going to be leaving SEL, right?
Yeah. I don't know, SEO, search engine land, maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows about SEO?
No, SEL.
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 Too many SEO, SEL, SEM. It's all good.
It's all good. So a couple of people are actually leaving SEL. That's unfortunate because it's a great brand, some great content out there. And Greg Sterling has really been a huge proponent in the SEO space and bringing us some good information for how many years now? My gosh, well over 10 years.
Barry wrote up a whole article. Barry Schwartz wrote up a whole article. Saying, I'm shocked and sad that Greg is leaving. He has in the article how long it was. I think it's like 15, 16 years. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that makes sense.
Yep. So we wish him all the best in his future endeavors, just like Jenny Mervin. His article here today was about local shopping. Even as more people shop online, searches for available near me have actually gone over 100% versus last year, despite new state lockdowns and significant e-commerce growth over Black Friday weekend. Large numbers of consumers continue to shop online. And we're seeing that. I mean, the year-over-year measurements on Black Friday were literally 20% increase in e-com, which was fantastic. Everybody's shopping online, especially with COVID in and amongst us here. But there's some great tips that they were actually sharing in this article. Google's Reena Nadkarni explained to realtors what they can do to actually drive local sales. And one of the key things is the tools that are available for Google My Business. Got to explore that still and be able to share that with small businesses. There are products that you can actually put online, curbside announcements. There's a lot of really good information, and it's really all about people wanting to know that their product's there before they actually get in the car and drive, right?
Yeah, that was really interesting, right? Like, it wasn't that just, it's like funny because you would expect, like, so I'm just going to shop online, I have it delivered to my house. But no, like the number of people going out to the store is also up, which is shocking to a certain extent. But what the article pointed out was that they want to know, like they exactly what the scenario is going to be when they get there. Will there be curbside delivery? Mm-hmm. Is a product there? Can I get it? Can I, is it going to be quick in and out? So understanding, people understanding your experience, what the experience that you're going to offer at your store is going to be like when they get there. Mm-hmm. From your online property, whether it be GMB or your website, is even more important than ever. So It's like the almost like perfect synthesis of actual brick and mortar shopping and the online experience. They're almost like completely enmeshed together now.
They really are. 80% of the stop shoppers will consolidate their shopping to make fewer trips in previous years, but they're still going out more. Right. The searches for available near me have grown, like I said, 100%. 67% of the shoppers plan to confirm online that a desired item is in stock before they go and buy it. And our family have been doing it ourselves. There's so much Amazon shopping. That's not the point. Literally checking and being able to see if that product's there. We're doing that for everything that we're doing when we're going shopping, because it doesn't make a lick of sense. I mean, in the way of the world right now, you are putting yourself at risk in public, right?
Yep.
And boy, you hate to even process it that way, but at the same time, data is right there for us. And Google's making it very easy to be able to update your information from your local shop. So a complete Google My Business profile is a recommendation, including images, right? and updating images regularly. Relevant business attributes like curbside pickup, publish Google posts and COVID posts. You can also provide product inventory information. And this is also what's really cool is that Google bought a product, an acquisition in January of this year called Pointy. And it actually enables small retailers to add products to their GMB profiles and simplifies the process of actually running local inventory ads. We can also, I think it's like a real-time scanner that you can actually pump inventory data.
That's awesome.
Into your offerings. What a fantastic tool, right?
Yep. You know, it's funny to me because we always get hung up. Not that we shouldn't on the GMB profile, but it's when I go to a website. Sometimes I do find it hard to understand, okay, what are you offering in terms of shipping now? Because obviously shipping could be totally affected by the pandemic. Right. How does it work if I show up at your store? What exactly is available at this particular branch? I feel like, you know, this information that came out from Gary is a good lesson to sites to understand, like, you can't just leave it all for your GMB profile, but you should also focus and make it easy for people on your site to understand exactly what's there for what branch and what the experience is going to be like. And I don't think that's going to go away, you know, when COVID hopefully goes away in the very near future.
Yep.
I think it's highly efficient. It's what people want. It's more targeted information for them, which is generally what sticks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we're becoming that hybrid data purchaser, and all businesses are literally going to have such a data management component. Even if you're a restaurant, it was surreal. We were having dinner last night out, and the menu was scannable to our phones because they took the menus away. Right. That's
amazing.
And you could also pay for the entire meal scanning a QR code. QR codes are making its way back, people. But literally.
Nice.
But we paid
Corona.
I'm saying the only way to get QR codes was a pandemic.
I hate QR codes.
QR codes kill kittens. Look it up. But I mean,
my brain.
The transaction was completely disconnected from. I mean, we had the waitress there, but literally everything was self-contained, and we were spaced out accordingly, and picked up and left. And you know, it was an experience that it wasn't disconcerting, but we respected it and knew, you know what, this is the best we can do as a society. If you want to go out, let's use data the right way, you know?
Or you just be a hermit like me and not go out.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the silver lining of Corona for me. Now I'm normal.
And just feed your kids a lot of graham crackers.
How
many graham crackers did he have in his mouth at that point in time? I think 5 or 6.
It wasn't a graham crack. It was they looked like graham. He had like 5 of them. By the way, you know what he did? He pulled out the whole package. So like, okay, I turned my back on my kid for 5 seconds. Okay.
Yep.
And I come back, he pulled out a package of crackers, he opened them up, and he's taking one bite of each and throwing it away. And then he's like, all right, I'll take 5 of these things and take one bite and then throw them all away. More efficient that way.
Wow. Is that what you teach him?
No, I don't teach him anything. This is how they are.
All right, that's it for Edge News this week. Morty, thanks for joining us. We certainly appreciate you jumping on board and working with us each and every week, bringing some great news. Any final words for our Edge audience here?
Just thanks for having me. Thanks for tolerating me, Aaron. Thanks for tolerating me in the booth over there. I look forward to being back. Maybe, hopefully, you'll have me back, right?
These are final first words and probably going to be last words there, right? Each and every, this is probably the best we're going to get from him. All things considered.
What I do now?
Well, we certainly appreciate you jumping on board here, and look forward to talking to you next week as we tackle some more interesting news articles. All right.
Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to get updated when we bring this show to you each and every week. Make sure that you check out our every Tuesday as we're rolling out the podcast each and every Tuesday morning for your drive time pleasure. From all of us over at Edge, be safe, be well, and do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.